That's what's going on, okay? All right. I am going to tell you that it depends on what kind of learner you are. If you want to go along on your computer with me and have Eduphoria open, that's perfectly okay. If you need to interrupt me and tell me, stop, I'm still doing that. Can you do it again? I'm not opposed to that. You probably don't want to tell me that in the chat. You just want to unmute yourself and tell me because I'll have my Eduphoria open, okay? So don't feel bad about unmuting and telling me that, okay? So I am going to go ahead and share my Chrome here. Can everybody see my Eduphoria window that's open?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right, let me move y'all's pictures out of the way. Um, I was telling Mary that what I know about Eduphoria, I'm going to be honest with you, I've just learned by clicking around in it. I kind of feel like when I was a teacher, um, I don't think that I knew everything that I could do in Eduphoria. I learned it, again, by clicking around and seeing, oh, I can see some of this in the data. Oh, I can do this. And I don't think I necessarily, took advantage of ways that I could have learned about it. I just sort of figured things out. And then now, as a facilitator, I've sort of done the same thing. I've just sort of clicked around. And so we don't have the same access as facilitators that you guys do on the campuses. And so sometimes when CTCs or teachers even come to us with questions about, I had a teacher who didn't score this ECR, and now what do I do to get it scored? A lot of times we feel bad, but we can't even answer that question because we can't see the same thing that you can see. And so those are just some things for you to know about things on our end, but I'm going to do my best to at least show you some things about pulling data and just a couple of kind of quick tips that I've learned. And if any of you from your experience have learned some things as well that you'd like to share, then you can definitely feel free to interrupt me and share those things also. I know we have a lot of new CTCs and some of them are not able to join us today. So I want to make sure that our new people also have a chance to kind of see how to at least pull the basic data reports because we have some assessments coming up that will be important for, okay? So first of all, when you come into Eduphoria, you're going to see some basic things here. You might not see all of these things populated. Usually you'll see sort of the last assessments that you viewed in this area. Or you might not see the same things I do, but you'll see sort of your last views here. What I want to start with is quick views. This might seem obvious to you, or you might already know this, but it might took me a little while to figure out that when my Eduphoria looked like this to start off with, and I couldn't figure out what all of these buttons meant over here. You do have a little arrow on the bottom left-hand side that pops this menu in and out. So that's just a quick tip that sometimes I couldn't figure that out at first, but that's how you pop the menu in and out. Sometimes it's helpful to have it not visible so you can see some more things. And sometimes when you want to know what all of those things mean, it's nice to have it showing for you, okay? So I'm going to start with quick views. And quick views is just where you are able to kind of quickly view any data that you would want to see from a test that you've recently given or, some kind of assessment that you want to view the data for. Just for our purposes today, I'm going to look back on last spring's STAR data because it's something that we all kind of have access to and we might all want to take a look at. But in order to see that data, I'm going to filter down to what I'm taking a look for. So I typically skip over the year. I usually don't need to filter that far down, but I'm going to just filter to the grade that I want to see. So I'll click on 4th grade just for the purposes of what we're doing today. And for subjects, you have a reading category here, but almost nothing for RLA is located in a reading. That's just, I don't know why, but it's always located in language arts. And so just know that our tests are located in language arts, especially if you're looking for our common assessments, that's where they're going to be. Okay, I've had teachers before looking and reading, and that's not where they're going to be. They'll be in language arts. Usually you're going to be taking a look at common assessments, which will be district assessments in the test types. But today because we don't have a district assessment up yet, I'm going to take a look at STAR tests from last year. So that's going to be in your STAR test. You can see that there's lots of different test types here. And typically, again, you'll be looking at district assessments. Sometimes your campus might have some things available. Today, I'm going to take a look at STAR test. Okay. And you can see that really narrowed it down. So we don't have very many STAR tests available on here for 4th grade right now. For right now, I'm just going to click on the May 2023 grade 4 language arts STAR test. Okay. Oops, not 2023, 2024. That's the one I want. too many years backwards, right? So when I click on that, I gotta move you guys' pictures out of the way again, sorry. You can see that over here on the right-hand side, I have some options. I can just look at student scores, which there might be some reasons that would be helpful, right? Because I might just, if I'm a teacher especially, I might just want to see how my kids did on a test, right? I just want a list of scores. As a CTC, I might want a list of all of the scores on my campus. I might want a reporting category breakdown, and I might want a learning standard breakdown, right? I can also see some individual responses. So you can see that there's some different options there of what I might take a look at. I'm going to just start with the one that's already highlighted, the student scores, but just know that this drop down is available for you, okay? I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And when I do, just know that you're going to see some campus data pop up. And usually the A's and the B's are the first campuses that pop up. So my apologies if you're at the beginning of the alphabet, your data will pop up here for us all to see. I'm going to quickly switch it to district view so you're not looking at different campuses. You though, as a campus, when you populate this, you'll just see your school's scores. You won't see any other campus, okay? So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing all of the students, and I'm seeing it by their demographic breakdown, and I'm seeing their approach meets and masters, and then I'm seeing a couple of different indicators also. So this gives me some information. If I was just a classroom teacher, I would see my students, and I would also be able to see their scores here too. So it depends on your role in the district as far as what you're going to see. Okay. Now, I am always interested in some data that Mary shared with you at our last CTC meeting. And I apologize I wasn't able to be there with you that day. I was out sick. But I shared some data on some of those slides with you that to me gives us a lot more information instructionally. And that's that learning standard breakdown. So it was back a screen that I showed you that, but I can access that from this slide also. So right up here, you see this drop down where it says student scores. I have lots of different options here to be able to change around what I'm seeing. So I'm going to go to that student learning standard because I'm really interested in where did my students do well and where do they maybe need some help, right? So I'm going to change this view to that student learning standard. And it's going to take just a minute to populate here. I'm going to switch it back to the district so you're not looking at all the different campuses. And here you can see it's giving me some data about all of those different learning standards, right? So I'm able to see, where did the students do really well? Where do they maybe need some help? It's giving me percentages, right, for all of the different students. Now this maybe is just my OCD, I don't know, but this is kind of hard for me to read because it goes way over here. It's very long horizontally. And so up here in the upper left-hand corner, I can switch the view. I can either make it horizontal or vertical. And so I'm going to click on this little one that's not highlighted, and it's actually going to make my spreadsheet go vertical. And it's just, to me, it's just a little bit easier, a little bit more friendly for me to read. And this is how I made those slides that you guys got at your last CTC meeting. So now I'm able to see, okay, my students on 4.3A, I can see that 71% of the students did pretty well on that one, right? And then I can see my next TEK was 4.3B, and that 51% of the students were able to attain that standard. So it gives me a really nice kind of breakdown really quickly of the learning standards. Okay. Now, I would guess that at most of your campuses, not every student takes the STAR test in English. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So you probably are interested in seeing your results in Spanish also. And if I'm correct about guessing this, I really like to see them side by side. I like to see how my kids did in English. I like to see the students in Spanish, and I like to be able to kind of see what those look like together. So I'm going to go back to my quick views here. In my upper left-hand corner, I can just go kind of backwards, and I still have my filters kind of ready for myself here. So I have that 2024 Reading Language Arts test in English already checked off. And I also have the availability to check off the Spanish one together with that one. So if I select both of those tests, you can see that I've got these tests together here. And that's how I put them both on the same spreadsheet. Okay. So this time, instead of starting with my student scores, I'm going to choose that student learning standard breakdown right away. I'm just going to go right into that report so I can see how my students did in English versus Spanish and just see what it looks like. And come back to the district view here. And you can see, I'm going to switch it to the vertical so you can actually see what I'm talking about because this one goes really far horizontally. But you can see now I have my English scores on the left-hand side and my Spanish scores on the right-hand side. So it gives me kind of this sort of this comparison, I guess, as far as how my students are doing. Now, it's important to sort of take this with a grain of salt because look at, this is district data now, right? It's not campus. So I've got a large number of students, but for fourth graders, you can see that I had over 2,000 students test in English and I had 392 students test in Spanish. So that's a pretty large difference in how many students tested in each language, right? You can see for this very first standard, 4.3a, 71% of the students were able to attain that standard in English. And then I have a blank in Spanish. What that means was that that standard wasn't tested in Spanish, right? So that's important to kind of know how to read this data as we go. So wherever I have a blank, that means that that standard wasn't tested in that language. So if I scroll down here, you're going to see the standards that are kind of extra in Spanish that were tested in Spanish that weren't tested in English. So it's kind of important to know how to compare these. And I really feel like it's important to help our teachers know how to compare these also, because if you have dual language teachers that are testing some of their students in English and some in Spanish, it's important for them to know what their students are being expected to do in either language, right? So that, if they're teaching one day in English and one day in Spanish, they were expected to do this in English and they were expected to do this in Spanish. Okay. All right. So what if I want to get this report out of Eduphoria? How am I going to get it? I don't have to just take a picture of it. I can actually export it. So up here in the upper left-hand corner, there's a button that says export. And you can export it to a PDF or you can export it to an Excel spreadsheet, whichever one of those is more convenient for you. And that will just download onto your computer and you can do whatever you want with it. So if it's a PDF, you're not going to be able to edit it. But if it's an Excel, you can mess with it. You can put more things into that Excel. You can change the size of things, whatever you want to do. But those will then be downloadable for you to be able to, hand out to your teachers or do what you would like with. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause for a second because I see that Mary just joined us. Mary, do you want to talk for a second to our friends here?
Hold on, sorry. I sent out an email. I'm not sure if all of you all have seen it yet. I just wanted to make sure if you're missing students from M-class rosters for any of your teachers, I need to get that information as soon as possible. It is not our end. It's not our IT end. So we are trying to get M-class all the information so that they can try and figure out what's going on. Okay. So in the email, I had asked that you just put your school, the grade level, the teacher, and then the student. Don't put their names, just put their initials and their ID number. And then, if it's this kinder teacher and then this first grade teacher or whatever, because I'm just forwarding those directly to the M-class people so that they can start looking into it and trying to figure out why those kids aren't showing up on your rosters. Okay. And the main one is kinder, just because we have to make sure that we've got all of those tested for the ECDS window. Okay. Right. Some of you all have already responded, so thank you. But I just wanted to hop on and I'm going to stay on and just listen, but I will be dealing with that right now. So I'm not ignoring you guys. If you have other questions or something, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. All right. Any questions about that first quick view report that we just pulled? I'm going to show you one more report before we finish up here. All right. Okay, so one more thing that I want to show you today is something called single test view. So that's also going to be on my menu on the left-hand side. I'm going to click on single test. And this is something that Eduphoria, I think, just introduced last school year. So this was new for most of us last year. And single test is just a really nice way to analyze exactly what it sounds like, a single test at a time. Okay, so I'm going to go into, let's click on fifth grade this time just for something different. And again, I'm going to click on language arts. And if I remember correctly, I don't think I can choose star this time. I think I have to, yeah, I'm gonna just choose a district assessment single test, it looks like, is not allowing us to click on star test for this one. So I'm going to pick a district assessment that we gave last year just for fun. So we'll choose the third 9 weeks from last year. So what happens when I'm looking at a single test view here, and this is something that you'll want to do after your campus is finished up with the first 9 weeks common assessment, is it basically gives you a view of how your campus did. So this is, again, this is full district data because that's what I have access to, but it's giving you a nice kind of graph of how everybody did. So you've got the did not meets, the approaches, the meets, and the masters, which is kind of a nice quick view of how everybody did. It's going to give me some demographic distribution, and then it's going to tell me my EBs and everybody down at the bottom. So that's a nice quick view of everything. These are tabs that you can click on at the top. I don't feel like that's super obvious at first, so it's important to know that. If you click on the learning standards summary, it's going to give you a little bit more information. So it'll tell you, how everybody did on each of those learning standards, which is important. So this is really important for me to see, for instance, ooh, that 5.7D, that was something we didn't do so hot on compared to the rest of them, right? 5.12C, I know right away that that was an ECR. That was a response one. So that I, as a facilitator, that's something that's drawing my attention to, ooh, that was something that didn't go so well for us as a district. But as a campus, you would want to go through here and kind of take a look at how your higher performing standards and your lower performing standards and how those went for you as a campus, right? Okay. And then if you click on item response analysis, and this is important because teachers are always saying, I can't see the test after we're done scoring the test, right? I can't see the questions. I can't see, I can't review things with my students. This is a place where you can go back in and see what exactly was tested. So first of all, we're taking a look at how things went here, and you can take a look, like let's just click on number 3 for an example. If I click on this bar for number 3, you can see that this populated down here, or it is populating. Again, it's taking mine a long time because I have every student in the district, but it's giving me the question on the test. It's actually giving me an answered distribution, which to me is really nice because it tells me, you know what, 77% of the students got it right. But what about the students who didn't get it right? What did they mostly answer? I feel like that's really helpful information for me as a teacher to know how my students were answering this question. It gives me the answer choices. And then it actually, I'll blur this out of the video, it tells me how the students answered. So if I was a teacher, it's going to tell me the students in my class and how each of them answered. Okay. Let me go ahead and click on this response one, which was this number 15, this 5.12C. For this response one, you can see the question. This was an ECR question. It's going to give us, this is not an ABCD question. It's a, 0 through 5 because this was the rubric for this question. It's telling us what the distribution was as far as how many students scored in each way. And then you as a CTC are able to actually go in and click on a student's response and read what they responded down here at the bottom. Which is really nice to be able to kind of gather some data for you as a campus. And then teachers can go back in also and go, if they're saying, you know what, I really want to go back in and read what my students read. I know that I scored them, but I need to go back and kind of analyze that for my own teaching and my response to how we did. That's important too. So on this first 9 weeks common assessment, for example, there's going to be a short constructive response, but it's important for teachers to be able to go back in from a teaching point of view and say, how did my students do? What did they respond? And how can I respond to that from an instructional perspective? So this single test view is really, really helpful from that standpoint. And again, when you open single test view, it's going to give you a performance. You're going to start here on this performance summary, but the bulk of that information was under this item response analysis.
Laura,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You said that it doesn't give us access to seeing the star just for the district and common assessments. That's it?
Yeah. So if you're interested in this kind of thing for STAR, you would want to go into Cambium, and you can see all of those things in Cambium.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. In fact, you can go and see what the students wrote for extended responses in Cambium and all of those things.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is really helpful for kind of immediate, it's immediate for you. And I really feel it's important for teachers to know this also. And unfortunately, we don't have access to train every teacher on this, but I feel like this is an important PLC conversation because like I was telling you, for me as a teacher, I was sort of one of those fearless, like, I'm going to click around. I know that I won't break it. So I would click around in Eduphoria, but I don't feel like a lot of teachers necessarily do. And so if a teacher, is sort of taught that this exists and, oh, wow, I can go back and see in this single test view, what my students answered and how I scored them and how they did, I think it's really helpful information for moving forward with your teaching, right? How did they answer? How did most of my students answer? Because even though wow, most of the students got number 9 right, they did pretty well. But if you go in and see, wow, the students who didn't get it right, how did they answer? Where is their thinking? Where's kind of where's the lack of understanding and how can I help guide that understanding moving forward? I think that's helpful information for teachers. But I think sometimes when we analyze data, we just think, oh, the question was written poorly, or we don't always think about how we can help teachers moving forward in that way. So I think those are all helpful things. And not every teacher will use it in that way, but those who will really dig in, I think it's helpful information in that way. When you up here where I see testing schools, I see every campus, but you're not going to see that. You're going to see teachers. And you're able to go into different teachers' classes and able to see the students. So if you've got, a group of students who are working with an interventionist, you're able to kind of dig down into those students. Or if you have a teacher that's brand new this year and might need some extra support, you're able to kind of dig down into those classrooms also. And teachers are going to just see their students when they come in. So any more questions about that single test view or quick views or anything else? Like I said, I don't consider myself the Eduphoria expert, but I do think it's really an important and helpful tool. And so I think it's, one of those things that we sort of need to get comfortable with and get comfortable with helping our teachers make their ways through also. Let me stop sharing so I can see your lovely faces. There you are.
Laura, are the Amplify assessments in this too, where they can look at the single test?
Yeah. So let me come back here and share.
And I know the teachers were also asking me, they wanted to have the ability to print the test. They can't, right?
So they can print, we always share the PDFs. Let me just show you from here. We always share the PDFs of the tests inside of Schoology, but they don't share very nicely because of those new test item types. So like if you have a highlight hotspot or if you have a drop down, none of those, they don't print very nicely. Like they're just not made to be printed. They're made to be taken online. And so they can print it. It just sometimes they're going to get sort of a messed up view, if that makes sense. And even when we go in and we try to print those PDFs or we make them into PDFs, you always get a warning from Eduphoria that says, warning, this test is not made to be, made into a PDF or made to be printed. And so you do have to be a little bit careful with that. And you don't want to give you sort of a false view of what the test is going to look like, if that makes sense. So they can, it's just, it's kind of not advisable.
And they're also saying when the students access the assessments, they're saying they don't see the full screen. So like even when they're looking at their answer choices and they have part A and part B, they have to constantly be scrolling to see the full question. And so they said that that's very frustrating, especially for some of their students.
Yeah. On the Amplify assessments or on which ones?
On the Amplify and Eduphoria.
Yeah.
Just not friendly for them.
Have you tried editing any of the Amplify assessments?
On Eduphoria? No, I haven't.
So that's what I had put a video up last week or probably the week before now, also about ways that you can edit them. We can't do that for you. That's a campus thing. So once we touch it, it's not editable anymore. So you kind of have to let that be something that you're going to decide whether, how you want to do it. I'm just scrolling into an Amplify assessment here. So you can edit them, especially because we know that some of them are really long. And so, we've had teachers say, I only want to give the first, I only want to give the morphology piece of it, or I only want to give the spelling test or whatever. Or this test is 30 questions and I only want 10 of them. So those parts you all can decide how you want to use as a campus. But if you do it, you want to make sure that you kind of do it evenly, at least across a grade level, because otherwise it's going to really skew your data, if that makes sense.
And then the answer key, I'm assuming, is just what they're taking from their TE.
Yeah, I'm trying to come into one right now. Let's just see. I don't know who has taken this one. This is from last year. Yeah, this is giving me one. This is grade 4, unit 5 from last year. So it is giving me the same kind of thing. But again, I don't know how great this data is going to be because I know, not everybody is using it and not everybody's using it in the same way. And so you as a campus would want to go in and take a look um, at your own snapshot of that assessment. So, but I did put a video up on Schoology, I think 2 weeks, maybe a week or two now ago, about how you all can go in and take those to be your own campus assessments and edit them in a way that's going to be useful for you.
And if I can say, Lacey, it's very easy. I was at a campus for Amplify, and after Amplify got done, we went ahead and looked at how they could create it. Here's the thing though, each teacher can go in and create it just for her class. So if you wanted it to be a grade level decision, then you would have to create the test and not them. Okay. So that everybody in the grade level was taking the exact same test. But the teachers were very excited about it because, again, like Laura was saying, those tests can be very lengthy. And this way you could go in and preview it, which is the perfect way to preview the unit, is starting looking at the assessment and then just saying what questions do we want to take off? What parts of the test do we completely want to throw away? And then that way you as the coach, you'll create it for just like 3rd grade at Hadera. And so when you go in to run the data, it'll only be you that sees that data.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So watch her video, but once you do it, it's like super simple.
Okay, thank you.
So that video, it's in the CTC Schoology group. I put it in the announcements. So if you're looking for it, it's in the announcements of the Schoology group, just on the scrolling section. All right. Any other questions? We'll keep you away from your afternoon. I know it's going to be release time pretty soon.
Do any of you all know of offhand if you have students that are missing on M-Class? You do, Lacey?
I'm assuming, did Dawn send you it already?
I don't know.
She said yes, she sent them already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Megan, do you know if you have any?
I haven't heard anything from our teachers yet, so I think we're good. And they've been testing
Okay.
this week.
Okay, good. And Elizabeth, no?
I haven't. Dr. Lynch was testing this week, and I think she was okay with that.
Okay. So we don't know how widespread it is. That's why I just put it out to everybody. But
No.
okay. All right, ladies.
All right. Thank you for your time. If you have questions, definitely let us know. And otherwise, we'll see you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a
Bye.
good afternoon.
Thank you.